What if the one person everyone laughed at turned out to be the only one worthy of the most powerful beast that ever lived? In a school where everyone can beast transform, Lin Qin is the only anomaly who has failed to transform every single time. Others arrogantly mock him at every step, but he humbly endures it all, finding some relief in the fact that at least the girl he likes cares for him. However, the bullies grow jealous and plot to make him beg and kneel before them. His one friend, Garfield, secretly meets him and says there is a special study group that could help him transform. But after trying countless remedies already, Lin Qin feels too hopeless and declines. This scares Garfield. When she returns to the study group, she finds the bullies waiting there, furious that she failed to bring Lin Qin. It is then revealed that the only way for them to become stronger beasts is to devour others. Now, with Lin Qin not arriving, they will have to go hungry. So they decide to devour Garfield instead. Suddenly, a voice echoes, "Security department. Who's there?" The bullies panic and run. Meanwhile, Lin Qin quickly pulls Garfield aside and tells her to stay quiet. Soon, the bullies realize there is no real security, just a recording device playing on a loop. This makes them even angrier. As Lin Qin and Garfield continue hiding, the girl Lin likes, Sherry, arrives and casually asks if they are playing hide and seek. The bullies spot them, and the truth is revealed. Sherry is actually their leader. She was the one who ordered them to bring Lin Qin here for their feast. Lin Qin tells Garfield to run while he escapes in another direction. As he hoped, all the beasts chase him until he jumps off a cliff. Still obsessed with devouring him, Sherry orders her minions to recover his body. Their search leads them to an abandoned facility where they come face to face with a shockingly large dragon. The dragon forms a pact with Lin Qin, finally allowing him to perform his beast transformation, shocking everyone, especially Sherry. She immediately attacks, hoping to take him down while he is still weak during his transformation phase. But Garfield steps in and saves him. Frustrated, the beasts slap Garfield hard and prepare to finish her off. Before they can, Lin Qin, now in his dragon-awakened state, takes them all down. Sherry cries, claiming she loves Lin Qin and wants romance with him right there. However, Lin Qin can now read minds in his dragon state. He realizes she is still deceiving him. Her real body is sneaking toward the old dragon, planning to kill it using her thousands of spider offspring. Lin Qin quickly finishes her off. The dragon, grateful, says he chose the right person to form a contract with, and then passes away. Lin Qin transforms back into his human form and notices a dragon egg where the dragon once was. He realizes the dragon wants him to raise the child. Through this, he can form a new contract, beast transform again, and ultimately become the Lord of 10,000 beasts. But before the dragon hatches from the egg, he begins looking into Lin Qin's memories to once again make sure if he truly is worthy of the gift he is about to give him. The dragon sees a huge stadium where a track race is going on. Everyone cheers the participants, saying faster, faster. Another says to put your backs into it, everyone, and that this directly affects their final term grading. Someone else says that Lin Qin is in the lead. We see a guy running really fast. He thinks he can do it this time. Then he looks ahead and says she is watching. Suddenly, a few people right behind him start laughing. He feels something is wrong and thinks they are here and he should prepare his defense. However, the guys behind come even closer and say that jerk looks so touching, trying so hard. Then immediately, a shout happens as they all get past him, calling him a piece of trash who cannot even perform beast transformation. As everyone transforms into beasts, they quickly overtake him. Another says what he is showing off for while making sure he drops since he cannot transform. Another beast comes and says he is in the way. As he falls to the ground, everyone keeps going ahead, laughing and saying he is probably the only one in the whole school who cannot transform. Even the instructor laughs and asks if Lin Qin is okay. Lin Qin coughs and thinks that this time the attack was aimed straight for his head, and luckily he blocked it. Then he thinks he bit his tongue just to muddle through it. The girl who was watching gasps, while the other beast students say he is really hurt and that he asked for it. They say he was too slow and in the way and question what that look is, asking if he wants to fight. Lin Qin just lowers his gaze and thinks he needs to calm down, that it is just a provocation and he can endure it. He tells himself he just has to stay away from them for now. Then one guy tells the teacher he needs to go to the infirmary. The teacher says to go ahead. Another guy says he is so pissed and that jerk has no self-awareness of being a jerk. Then he says this ends here, and tonight he will make him kneel and beg for mercy. Later, Lin Qin explains that so-called beast transformation is when humans establish a connection with beasts, thereby obtaining beastly power that surpasses humanity. Everyone in this school can transform except for me. Since I can remember, I have been trying to connect with beasts. Let alone connecting, Even approaching them is difficult. Why? But I can clearly sense the call of some kind of power. I still have to wait. She should be coming soon. As he prepares once again, he feels someone arrive. The person says that sure enough, he is dead last again and tells him to kneel down quickly. She says she is second to last, and that by beating him again and again, she has won so much that she is numb. Her beast transformation rate is at 1%. Then he says, "Oh, it is you, Garfield," and asks her to hand over the milk. She asks how he knew. He says that every time she tries to comfort him, she buys milk. She then tells him to guess what she is going to say next. She asks how he got beaten up again and says she was just about to teach those idiots a lesson, but suddenly got a stomach ache. After Lin Kin predicts this, he says that next time, definitely next time. Garfield is shocked. She says that is too intense and asks if he is going to awaken as the legendary beast of prophecy. However, he tells her to stop reading so many tomato novels and asks what kind of nonsense a beast of prophecy even is. Garfield then says it is strange that he is so sharp in his normal state, yet has no way to transform. He replies that seeing through people is just for self-protection. Garfield then says it cannot be helped, but since they are buddies, she will give him a hand. She says that tonight she has put together a study group to discuss the 365 methods of beast transformation, and it is in the small woods behind the back mountain. She tells him to come too. Lin Kin responds by saying her and a study group sound unbelievable and tells her to forget it because he would rather sleep more. However, Garfield grabs his arm and says she is begging him. Then, seeing his reaction, she suddenly bursts out laughing. She says she was just kidding and fooled him again, and asks how she could possibly share her secret study method. She tells him goodbye and says he should watch her back while he desperately tries to catch up. Then she leaves while Lin Kin just stands there watching. Later, as she moves a bit ahead, she meets someone who greets her and says she has arrived. He asks why she is the only one and reminds her that he told her to bring that jerk Lin Kin. She says Lin Kin has diarrhea and could not make it today. Immediately, they slap Garfield. He reminds her about their group study trick and says that compared to bitter training, direct food supplementation improves transformation rate much more. Then he brings up the problem. Lin Kin did not come, so what are they going to eat for their midnight snack? Garfield is shocked. Suddenly, she points in a direction and says the security department is over there, asking what they are doing. Immediately, they panic and start running away, wondering why someone is coming. At that moment, Lin Kin quickly grabs Garfield and tells her not to make a sound. He then asks if this is the study group she was talking about. She starts crying and calls out to him, asking how he ended up there. Garfield says they will talk about the study group later and should get out of here first. Suddenly, they hear a recording saying the security department is over there and asking what they are doing. Now the bully is really shocked as he realizes it is a recording and asks where they went. Lin Kin is still there, watching carefully to make sure no one sees them. But suddenly, the girl he admires spots him and asks what they are playing. He immediately warns Sherry that it is dangerous here and tells her to run. However, Garfield suddenly gets pushed back as Lin Kin tells her to get back. She lets out a small meow and drops. Then the girl praises him, saying how sharp he is for realizing it immediately. The beasts address her as Lady Sherry. Another one comments that it is as expected of the man she wants to capture, as Lin Kin gets restrained. He realizes something is wrong and asks if they are all in cahoots. Sherry then says it is truly strange that even though he cannot perform beast transformation, his body holds an inexplicable attraction that makes it impossible for her to take her eyes off him. She grabs him and says it is his scent, the scent of his blood, calling it incredibly sweet, ancient, and pure, and says she loves it. As Sherry begins transforming into a spider-like being, she prepares to attack him. One of them says it is useless and reminds him that spider silk is stronger than steel. Then Sherry says she cannot hold back anymore and that she is going to poke him full of holes like a shower head. Lin Kin struggles with everything he has to break free from the spider silk. He makes all kinds of movements, pushing his body to the limit. Suddenly, something unexpected happens. The beasts are shocked and scared. They realize he deliberately let his joint get stepped on just to sever his own arm and escape. Then Lin Kin starts running. Sherry orders them to stop standing around and chase him, and they all respond immediately. As he keeps running, he thinks he cannot go on and that he is going to lose too much blood, and that this is the end. He becomes extremely tired, but then feels something again, the same strange sensation calling him somewhere. Suddenly, one of the beast bullies shouts that he has caught him and leaps toward him. But Lin Kin has already jumped. As he starts falling off the edge, the others look down and call him a complete lunatic. Another one orders them to go down and find him immediately, saying he wants to see Lin Kin dead or alive. As we see Lin Kin below, he notices a place right in front of him. The others also reach there and assume he crawled inside, so they begin entering. One of the beast men wonders if their school even has a place like this. Sherry immediately shuts him up and tells him to follow her. As they all move inside together, they look around in shock and say the place is huge, questioning if it is an abandoned research institute. Then someone spots him and says there he is. But suddenly, they all freeze. Right behind Lin Kin stands something terrifying, a really huge beast. It is staring directly at him. The others are frightened and realize what it is. They say it is a dragon, repeating it in disbelief, and question how it is possible since dragons supposedly went extinct 20 years ago. Sherry, however, becomes extremely excited. She starts thinking that this is a legendary divine beast, the supreme being, the absolute apex. Lin Kin then realizes something and says that it was the dragon summoning him all this time. Meanwhile, the others panic and say he is about to initiate beast transformation. One of them declares that they should kill him while he is still weak. Sherry is fully ready to do anything. Immediately, Garfield jumps in between Sherry's attack and warns Lin Kin to watch out. She takes the hit and gets badly hurt. She apologizes to Lin Kin for tricking him into coming to the study group. Sherry gets annoyed and calls her a brat, telling her not to get in the way. At that moment, Lin Kin's transformation advances further. As his dragon power rises, he suddenly feels overwhelming strength. He grabs Garfield and pulls her to safety. Then he turns toward Sherry and attacks. Sherry starts screaming that it burns. The other beasts panic. They realize he has turned into a dragon and start running away in fear. Lin Kin gently puts Garfield down and tells her it is okay now and to wait for him. He briefly helps stabilize her, then turns toward the fleeing beasts. He calls them out, saying they were the ones who slapped Garfield. He quickly takes down one of the bullies. Another one panics and insists he did not slap Garfield. Lin Kin responds that even if he did not, he still hit his head earlier. Then he proceeds to take him down as well. Meanwhile, Sherry, still struggling, tries a different approach. She starts acting submissive and says she was wrong, claiming Lin Kin has always been special to her. She offers herself, saying he can do whatever he wants. Outwardly, she acts seductive, thinking that no matter how strong he is still a man and cannot resist her. But inside her mind, she is thinking something completely different. She plans to escape with her real body, believing Lin Kin will be finished soon anyway. She thinks the dragon is already old and near death, and she will use countless spiders to tear it apart, leaving nothing behind. She plans to turn Lin Kin back into a powerless loser and make him her lowest slave instead of killing him immediately. However, everything she is thinking, Lin Kin hears it all. He repeats her thoughts word for word. Sherry is terrified and asks how he can know what she is thinking. Lin Kin calmly responds, asking why she thought she could escape his sight this time. Sherry panics, and before she can react further, he takes her down. After that, Lin Kin says he will not look any further and realizes his power is starting to fade. He looks at the dragon and understands what is happening, asking if it is because the dragon is dying. Suddenly, the dragon's body begins to burn, as if entering a final transformation, nirvana. Lin Kin understands and asks if this was what the dragon truly wanted to give him. As the flames settle, a single dragon egg remains. Now, Lin Kin stands there with the egg in his hands. Back in a really big dorm, we see Lin Kin. He notices Garfield waking up and says she is finally awake. Garfield groans and says her head hurts and her whole body aches, asking where she is. He tells her she is in his dorm and explains that no one is willing to live with him, so she can rest there in peace for a while. Garfield suddenly reacts dramatically and says she treated him like a brother, asking if he did something else. He immediately denies it. Garfield then recalls what happened last night. She says it was Sherry who tried to take her out and calls her a bastard. Then she remembers that Lin Kin transformed into a dragon and saved her. She bursts out laughing and says there is no way that could be real since he is dead last in rankings. She convinces herself it must have been a dream and says her head hurts too much, so she is going back to sleep. Lin Kin thinks to himself that the baby dragon cannot be discovered by anyone. He considers that he could easily brush Garfield off, but then decides there is no need to hide it from her. He tells Garfield that she was not dreaming and that he really did transform into a dragon. Garfield, still half asleep, jokingly asks if he is dreaming instead. Lin Kin then explains that last night seemed like a one-time thing, and although he currently has transformation ability, it is very weak. He says that if he wants to regain that power, he must successfully raise it. Then he shows her the baby dragon. Garfield's eyes light up as she sees it. She says it is so cute and that even her tough heart has melted, and she wants to pet it. Lin Kin warns her that, theoretically, dragons have been extinct for decades, and many people would want to get their hands on it. So until it becomes strong enough, they cannot let anyone know about it. The baby dragon continues sleeping peacefully. Garfield confidently says to leave everything to her, calling them the strongest partners and saying they are just like a family. Then she jokes and asks that if they are a family, which one of them is the dad. Lin Kin just stays silent. After that, he shifts the topic and tells her to explain everything she knows about the study group. Meanwhile, Sherry has been missing for 3 days. In another place, a group chat is shown where someone is frantically messaging her. He keeps asking if she is there and why she did not come to the study group that night. He wonders if she is asleep and offers to order her a late-night snack, even promising to bring her breakfast the next morning. He keeps calling out to her, asking if she is there. Then he says that over the past 3 days, he has sent 1,387 messages, and she has not replied to a single one. He complains that she did not show up for evening self-study either, and that he even waited outside her door all night singing for her, but she never appeared. Finally, he concludes that all signs indicate something must have happened to Sherry. Then, in the worst-case scenario, he starts overthinking and says she must be with someone else, another man. He starts crying, while another guy reacts by saying that is disgusting and asks what he should do. The secretary, Dai Shua, gets annoyed and says that even without Sherry, he does not want to live either. However, the other guy, Secretary Dai Shua, warns him that if he dirties his clothes again, he will take him down, addressing him as Chairman Kong Wei. Then Dai Shua says he has already investigated everything recently. He explains that Miss Sherry had taken a special interest in a male student, and he is going to investigate that person. He says the name seems to be Lin Kin. Later, we see the cute little dragon trembling. Someone asks what is wrong with it, while another says it seems to be in pain. Lin Kin gets worried and asks what they should do. Suddenly, there is a huge pile of poop in his hand. Garfield bursts out laughing and says that from today onward, he is a poop scooper and has to get used to a life stained with poop. He reminds her that she said they were family and tells her not to run away from responsibility. The little dragon starts trembling again. Lin Kin asks what is wrong with it now. Garfield guesses that it is probably hungry and wonders what baby dragons eat. Lin Kin sighs and says raising a kid is too hard. He then says that if it is a matter of food, the school has a logistics department. He mentions an uncle named Old Xiao, who used to be a beast tamer and should know what dragons eat. He tells Garfield to stay in the dorm and take care of the little dragon while he goes to buy food. Later, Lin Kin arrives at the logistics department. A guy there asks if he is looking for Old Xiao and says the old man is probably drunk again. He tells Lin Kin to just come to him if he needs anything. He introduces himself as a general worker in the logistics department. There are also a lot of dogs around. Lin Kin quietly observes everything. Mai listens to his situation and says that whether it is a bird or a reptile hatchling, high-protein food, mainly meat, is essential. He invites Lin Kin to try the food, saying the logistics department also provides cooking services. Lin Kin tastes it and says it melts in his mouth. Others who try it also react the same way, saying it melts in their mouths as they happily keep eating. Suddenly, Lin Kin notices Garfield there and asks why she came. Garfield casually says she got a little hungry. Lin Kin gets slightly annoyed and says he was going to bring food back for her, and asks if he did not tell her to take care of the little dragon. Garfield says it is in the bag. Lin Kin warns that if the little dragon gets discovered, they are done for. Garfield says she knows. He then asks why she brought it out anyway. She casually says she got a little hungry and tells him to relax. She adds that he cannot keep the little guy locked in the dorm forever, and that it needs fresh air too. She says she knows the limits. Then she opens the bag and shows him, telling him to look at how happily it is eating. Lin Kin gives in and says all right, and that they should head back as soon as they finish eating. He warns that if they are seen, it will be big trouble. As they continue, Lin Kin starts thinking. He realizes the dragon cannot stay in the dorm forever, and that he needs to find a safer and more suitable place for it to grow. He also thinks about the study group and remembers what Garfield said, that they are very dangerous and will come knocking sooner or later. Just as Lin Kin is lost in thought about them, suddenly a guy approaches and starts sniffing him. Lin Kin gets slightly tense. Then the guy says that Lin Kin has the scent of her perfume on him. Then the guy comes close to Lin Kin and starts sniffing him. He suddenly gets excited and says it is Sherry's scent. Garfield immediately reacts and and calls him Chairman Kong Wei. Mai also notices this, and his expression suddenly turns serious. Lin Qin realizes that this guy is the chairman of the study group. Kong Wei then demands that Lin Qin tell him everything he knows about the study group. Earlier, Garfield had already told Lin Qin that Chairman Kong Wei is responsible for the recent disappearances of many students in the school. They grow stronger through dietary supplementation, meaning devouring others. She also mentioned that he is extremely arrogant because of his powerful background, and that he is one of the strongest students in their year. His beast transformation abilities, along with his physical and mental strength, allow him to achieve a certain level of control over his targets. Back in the present, Lin Qin suddenly feels something is wrong. He realizes he cannot move. He thinks this must be Kong Wei's control ability. Even the tracker holding the little dragon starts trembling. Lin Qin struggles again, but still cannot move. He realizes the dragon must have done something earlier, but right now he cannot start a conflict here. He needs to find a way to stabilize the situation first. Then he remembers what Garfield said, that the super-obsessive Chairman Kong Wei would never let things go if he found out Sherry was dead. Lin Qin quickly adapts. He nervously asks if he is Chairman Kong Wei and says he heard Sherry mention him. Kong Wei immediately reacts and asks if Lin Qin has spoken with Sherry, then questions what rank he is to dare call her by her name. Lin Qin explains that he is in the same class as Sherry. He says he cannot transform, so he asked her to get him into the study group, but she told him she could not decide and that he needed the chairman's approval. Kong Wei is stunned and asks if Sherry really said she needed his approval. Lin Qin confidently says yes and adds that she mentions him often. That completely flips Kong Wei's mood. He starts getting overly excited and wonders out loud if Sherry actually loves him. He thanks Lin Qin and convinces himself that Sherry must have been too shy to confess directly. Then he immediately agrees to let Lin Qin join the group. He runs around telling others, saying they heard it, that Sherry loves him. He keeps going from person to person, announcing it excitedly and even talking about wedding banquets and future plans like a child being 1 month old. As all of this is happening, a guy watches from behind and calmly comments that claiming close contact with Lady Sherry to explain the scent, and then using the chairman's brain-dead weakness to shift the conversation and remove suspicion, was actually very smart. Garfield gets a bit worried after seeing him, but Lin Qin remains calm and just keeps watching. The guy steps forward, extends his hand, and says he was being abrupt. He introduces himself as Vice Chairman Dai Shua and welcomes Lin Qin to the study group. They shake hands. Then Dai Shua asks if Lin Qin is really unable to transform. As he grips his hand, Lin Qin immediately realizes he is being tested. He thinks that Dai Shua still suspects him. He knows he cannot use beast transformation power right now, and although the force is not much of a threat, he still has to pretend. He reacts as if it hurts and plays along. Meanwhile, Garfield quickly explains that Kong Wei has another deputy, Dai Shua, whose beast transformation is a kangaroo. She says he has strong arm strength, is super annoying, and is also a serious germaphobe. As Dai Shua continues holding his hand, he suddenly notices something and asks what that is. Lin Qin casually apologizes and says that as a poop scooper, it is reasonable for him to have a little poop on his hands. Dai Shua's expression instantly changes. He becomes extremely uncomfortable. Lin Qin then points out that there is also a little on Dai Shua's left cheek, right cheek, forehead, and chin. That completely breaks him. Dai Shua panics and loses control, shouting angrily that Lin Qin wants to die, and immediately begins transforming. He throws a punch and sends Lin Qin flying. Garfield panics and rushes to him, calling out to him. Dai Shua, still furious, yells that Lin Qin dared to play him. Garfield notices Lin Qin coughing and asks if he is okay. Lin Qin weakly tells her to quickly extort him, no, to ask for medical expenses. Garfield hesitates and says this is not the time to think about money and that she is taking him to the hospital. Lin Qin insists that she listen to him. She agrees. Then Garfield suddenly starts screaming loudly, saying there is blood and that he is coughing it up. She accuses the study group of being morally corrupt and having twisted humanity, saying they attack someone who cannot even transform. She calls everyone to come and look, questioning where the justice is, and keeps bringing up how poor they are and how they cannot afford the medical bills. Dai Shua immediately understands what is happening. Annoyed and wanting to end the scene quickly, he throws money at them and tells them to shut up and take it as medical expenses. Garfield picks up the money and happily thanks him. After collecting it all, she walks over to Lin Qin and says they got the money and should go to the hospital. Lin Qin calmly says he is fine and reveals that the blood he spat earlier was actually chili sauce that he swiped from a barbecue stall. Garfield is confused and reacts in disbelief. Lin Qin explains that they have to save money for the little dragon's milk powder. Garfield then says she was only pretending to be scared and that he should have told her earlier. Lin Kin apologizes and says that without her real performance, he was worried they would not fool that kangaroo. Garfield proudly agrees and says her acting is indeed perfect. Meanwhile, Lin Kin starts thinking to himself. He realizes that even after taking that hit, he is completely fine. Although it is not at the same level as that night, his body has clearly strengthened a lot. It feels as if his body is covered in a thin layer of dragon scales. Then he casually says that the kangaroo guy is rich and that they managed to extort quite a bit, so they should split it. He starts dividing the money and explains that one part will go toward the little dragon's food for the week, another part for teething items and toys. Garfield then asks what about the remaining portion. Lin Kin tells her that part is her service fee and tells her to buy something she likes to eat. Garfield gets excited and happily starts counting the money. But in the distance, the chairman is still standing there, watching. Lin Kin also glances back, noticing him. Back in the dorm, Lin Kin starts planning. He says that if he drafts a growth plan, the food problem is temporarily solved. He still needs a safer and freer place. He also needs a beast tamer and wonders where he can find someone he can trust. Then he adds that he also needs to give the little dragon a name. While he is thinking, Garfield suddenly calls out to him, calling him Little Cher. Lin Kin responds, asking what is wrong. Garfield panics and says the little dragon is very hot. She says it is around 40 degrees and that it has a fever. She adds that it looks very uncomfortable. She mentions that the school has a medical department, but taking the dragon there would expose it. Lin Kin immediately says he will figure out a way to lower its temperature and starts soaking a cloth with water. As he checks again, he is shocked and says it is over 60 degrees. He realizes that at such a temperature, an ordinary creature would have already burned to death. He starts panicking internally, wondering what to do. He concludes that he has no choice but to find a doctor. Garfield asks if he really does not need her to come along. Lin Kin says yes, explaining that more people would attract attention and it is better for him to act alone. He adds that if he waits a bit longer, there should not be many people in the emergency department. As he steps out, he notices that the vice chairman is also nearby, watching him. The vice chairman looks at the bag again and complains that it looks dirty just from seeing it. Lin Kin arrives at the hospital. Inside, he notices a small puppy walking with the help of wheels. A lady doctor is gently playing with the puppy and praises it, saying it did a good job completing today's rehabilitation task. Then a group of people approaches her. One of them questions why she is wasting money on a disabled local dog and claims it is for her own good. Another says they have better breeds and even offers her a family discount. The lady doctor gets annoyed and says that those boring, utilitarian middle-aged people do not understand anything. The middle-aged group leaves, complaining that she treated their kindness like trash and calling her emotionally immature. One of them adds that they heard she does not have many friends and that her parents died early, calling her a weirdo and telling others to stay away from her. After they leave, the place becomes quiet again. Lin Kin, wearing a disguise, walks in. He observes the doctor and thinks to himself that she looks gloomy, yet prescribes such expensive medicine, wondering if she is actually a quack. Then we see Fan Fan relaxing. She says there probably will not be any patients today either, and wonders if she is really not cut out to be a doctor. Suddenly, Lin Kin opens the door and walks inside. She reacts in surprise. Lin Kin asks her a question. He says that the dog seems very important to her and asks if he can know why. Fan Fan gets defensive and asks if he is some kind of voyeur. She says she does not need to tell him that Ruby has been with her since childhood and is her only family. She adds that she has no interest in pouring her heart out about how Ruby lost her legs protecting her. She also says she refuses to shout like a Chinibyo teenager about her dream of curing Ruby. Then she calls herself a distrusted doctor who cannot get patience or practical training and says she is basically trash. Lin Kin thinks to himself that she really did not leave anything out. After a short silence, he decides to speak. He says she is worth a try. He tells her that his pet beast is also sick and asks her, before seeing it, to promise to keep what happens next a secret. Fan Fan pauses, then says that there are many complex relationships between humans and beasts and that a qualified doctor would respect such things. She agrees to keep it a secret. Lin Kin clarifies that it is not what she is thinking. He says that the creature also saved his life. He then urgently explains that its fever is approaching 70 degrees and begs her to save it. Then he reveals the little dragon. Both the doctor and Ruby are completely shocked. Fan Fan stares and says that it is a dragon. She quickly regains focus and admits that she has no experience treating dragons since they went extinct decades ago and it was never taught in class. Then she remembers that the library might have old records and says she will go look immediately. Lin Kin stays silent. Fan Fan then adds that if he is worried, he can come along. Lin Kin declines. He thinks this is a necessary test to see if she is trustworthy, and also a good chance to deal with the kangaroo tracking him from earlier. He tells her he will wait there and says he is counting on her. Fan Fan agrees and rushes out. Outside, Fan Fan is excited. She says out loud that it is a dragon and asks Ruby if she saw it, saying the world is still full of infinite possibilities. Ruby barks in response. Then, suddenly, Fan Fan notices someone nearby. She looks surprised as she spots the vice chairman standing there. She reacts with confusion. The vice chairman walks past, and Fan Fan calls out to him, asking if this deep V-neck situation is some kind of harassment. He ignores that and directly asks her to tell him what that person just put in his bag. Fan Fan is confused and asks what he means. The vice chairman explains that he realized something. When he attacked Lin Kin earlier, a normal reaction would have been to use the bag as a shield. But instead, Lin Kin subconsciously protected the bag and kept acting cautiously afterward. He says that even though the bag looks incredibly dirty, there must be something important inside, possibly related to Lady Sherry's disappearance. He says he is very concerned and demands to know what is inside. Fan Fan firmly says that this is a matter between doctor and patient, and she will not tell him. The vice chairman then calmly explains that a kangaroo's arm strength is 6 to 10 times that of a human, and that beast transformation would further double it. As he says this, he grips her shoulder tightly and asks again if she can tell him now. Fan Fan refuses and calls him a dumbass. He tightens his grip even more and asks again. Fan Fan stubbornly repeats that he is the dumbass. At that moment, little Ruby starts barking and rushes forward to protect her. The vice chairman casually steps on Ruby. Fan Fan panics and calls out to Ruby. He coldly says that since the dog is so important to her, she should tell him now. Ruby keeps barking despite the pain. Suddenly, a stone flies in and hits, forcing the vice chairman to move his foot away. He looks up and calls it a cheap trick, saying Lin Kin has finally stopped hiding. Lin Kin arrives and apologizes to Fan Fan for dragging her into this. Fan Fan tells him not to blame himself, saying he was just seeing a doctor and that it is only wrong because someone else is being a jerk. Lin Kin says she could have just told him and avoided trouble. Fan Fan reminds him that he was the one who made her promise to keep it a secret. Lin Kin thanks her sincerely and asks her to continue looking for the data, saying the temperature has already crossed 70, and he is very worried. Fan Fan agrees and prepares to leave, but the vice chairman suddenly gets angry and demands to know who allowed her to leave. He raises his fist to attack. Lin Kin quickly steps in and blocks it. The vice chairman is shocked. He transforms into his kangaroo form and realizes that Lin Kin can actually perform beast transformation. He accuses him of faking it before, saying an ordinary person could never block his punch. He prepares to continue the fight. Then the vice chairman throws an even fiercer punch. Now Lin Kin starts having trouble holding his ground. The kangaroo beast explains that he can throw rapid punches at the same spot, causing the power to accumulate over time, and that Lin Kin's defense will eventually break. He keeps punching again and again and again without stopping. Lin Kin gets annoyed and says he is not an idiot and that it is not like he only knows how to defend. He seizes an opening, dodges, and counters from the side. Again, he says it is not like he only knows how to defend. Then Lin Kin starts analyzing the fight. He realizes that the opponent relies too much on beast transformation and that his basic abilities are actually weak. He concludes that he can win. The kangaroo growls and says that Lin Kin is definitely hiding something, asking if it is a chimera and demanding that he hand it over. Lin Kin refuses. In his mind, he thinks the little dragon has already reached its limit and cannot hold on much longer. He realizes there is no time to waste talking. He decides he has to lure the kangaroo to a place with no people and finish the fight quickly. So he starts running. The kangaroo scoffs and says Lin Kin cannot escape. Then he contacts the chairman and reports that his suspicion was correct, that Lin Kin is hiding a secret, likely a hybrid beast. He adds that if that is true, then Lady Sherry has probably already been taken out. He says he will follow Lin Kin and tells the chairman to come quickly just in case. Meanwhile, the chairman prepares to move at full speed. As he rushes out, he runs into Mai. Mai blocks his path. The chairman, in a hurry, tells him not to get in the way. Mai calmly stands there and tells him to stop. Back to Lin Kin, the situation becomes critical. He can feel that the little dragon's temperature has risen even further. He thinks it is definitely over 100 degrees now, and even its breathing feels scorching hot. Meanwhile, Fan Fan is desperately searching through the library, trying to find anything related to dragons. She keeps searching and searching, but cannot find anything useful. Just then, she notices someone nearby. A person drops a book while walking walking away. Fan calls out, telling them they dropped their book, but the person does not stop. As she picks it up, she notices something on the cover. There is a dragon on it. At the same time, Lin Kin senses something happening inside his bag. He suddenly realizes something might be changing. He reacts with surprise, wondering if this could be it. After opening the book, Fan says it is actually a handwritten notebook, and she immediately finds something useful. Meanwhile, Lin Kin is still running, with the kangaroo chasing behind him. The kangaroo mocks him, saying he cannot run anymore and asks if he is ready to obediently be taken out. At the same time, Fan reads that young dragons usually experience a temperature rise around the full moon, and their body surface temperature may exceed 150 degrees. She explains that this happens because their internal glands are starting to develop. Back at the fight, the kangaroo charges forward and shouts for Lin Kin to die as he throws a powerful punch. But suddenly, Lin Kin throws the bag toward him. The bag is empty. At that moment, a huge dragon appears, perched on Lin Kin's shoulder. The dragon stares directly at the kangaroo. Lin Kin looks at the dragon, and the dragon begins preparing something. Fan continues reading that dragons need to periodically release the energy inside their bodies. Right then, Lin Kin calmly tells the dragon to say hello. The kangaroo is confused and asks what that thing is. In the next instant, a massive blast of fire shoots forward and engulfs him. He screams in pain as the flames consume him. After a moment, the dragon stops. The kangaroo is left in a terrible state, barely standing. He begs for mercy and says he will keep everything a secret. Lin Kin walks up to him and coldly says that only dead people keep secrets. The vice chairman panics and argues that if he dies, the security department will investigate and they will end up taking the dragon. Lin Kin replies that if that happens, he will just make all of them dead as well. Meanwhile, Fan rushes over, calling out for Lin Kin. She says she found the reason and explains that the little dragon's temperature rise is actually a normal phenomenon and that it is about to. Before she can finish, Lin Kin tells her that the fever has already gone down. The dragon is now much calmer. Fan feels relieved and says that is great, but she suddenly collapses from exhaustion after running so much. Lin Kin steadies the situation and says that the kangaroo will not cause trouble anymore, but the problem is not fully solved yet, and he will use this time to prepare. He thanks Fan sincerely. Then he asks if he can hire her as the little dragon's private doctor. Fan is shocked and says she can do it, but also doubts herself, saying she is just an untrusted nobody and not qualified to treat a dragon. Lin Kin reassures her and says she is the best doctor he has ever met. Fan is surprised by that. Then she remembers something and says that she found the notebook in the reference room. She explains it was dropped by a girl she could not catch, so until she finds her, she thinks she should leave it with him. It is a handwritten dragon research notebook. After taking the notebook in his hand, Lin Kin is a bit surprised. Then we cut to the fight between Mai and the chairman. Mai tells him to give Dash back to him, even though he is clearly at a disadvantage. The chairman looks down on him and says that lower class people talk too much and are very annoying. He says Dash has long been his dog and orders it to devour Mai. Mai tries to stop him and calls out to Chairman Kong Wei to wait. At that moment, another person appears. It is old Xiao from the logistics department. He calmly steps in and says that lower class people may not know better, and asks if the chairman can spare his cheap life for the sake of an old man like him. After seeing old Xiao, the situation pauses. Back to Lin Kin and the others. Fan explains that the little dragon is growing quickly, and the study group is already searching everywhere for him. She says he cannot stay in the dormitory anymore. She then says she knows a place where he can stay temporarily and tells them to follow her. Garfield gets excited and immediately agrees. They follow her. Soon, they arrive at a hidden location. It is a secret base, an abandoned old campus. Back at the dorm, they realize there is no way they can remain there anymore. Later, Garfield suggests that since the whole study group is looking for him and the little dragon, he should just leave the school, raise the dragon outside, and then come back to take revenge. Lin Kin disagrees. He says the school has a support department, so if the little dragon gets sick, it can receive timely treatment. He also says the outside world is even more dangerous and unpredictable, and carrying a dragon there would be risky. Most importantly, he adds that he is still a student here. He continues, saying that both he and the little dragon need real combat experience to grow stronger. Overall, he concludes that this place, being far from the central campus, is currently the most suitable option. Then he looks around, coughs a bit, and comments on how long it must have been since anyone lived there, since everything is so dirty. He declares that today is going to be a big cleanup and asks if everyone is ready to help. Everyone gets excited. Even the little dragon starts picking up tables and chairs. Lin Kin laughs and tells it to do whatever makes it happy. They all begin cleaning at full speed. The dragon is clearly enjoying itself. After a while, they relax a bit, play around, and even start joking and snapping at each other. Lin Kin excitedly cheers, calling Xiao Nen the number 1 member. Soon, Garfield arrives carrying 2 big bags, and Fan Fan comes along as well. Fan Fan announces that she is here and asks how the cleaning is going. After taking a look around, they both feel it is still not properly cleaned. Garfield suggests they should help and says they should let the little dragon and Ruby go outside to play. Lin Kin asks if they were followed. Garfield confidently says that is impossible and calls herself the King of Stealth. After finishing up, Garfield proudly announces that cleaning is complete and that it is time to party. She says she specially made food for everyone and boasts that she is the queen of cooking. However, after tasting it herself, she immediately admits it tastes terrible and complains that she spent the whole afternoon on it. Fan Fan bluntly says there should not be a next time. Lin Kin, however, stays calm. He eats it and says that if you taste it carefully, it is actually not that bad, and that it even has a sweet aftertaste. Garfield gets hopeful and asks if she really is the queen of cooking. Then she tastes it again and immediately says it is still bad, questioning what aftertaste he is talking about. Lin Kin casually says you have to chew it 49 times. Garfield refuses his pity and says she will finish the food she made herself, telling them to save some for her. Lin Kin adds that even the little dragon loves it. They all continue eating together. Fan Fan watches them and jokingly comments that they look like they are showing off affection and suggests taking them down. Later, back at Lin Kin's dormitory, a guy bursts in, frantic. He reports to the chairman that there is still no news of Dai Shua and that Lin Kin has been missing and skipping class for 2 weeks. The chairman coughs, then declares that first Lin Kin took away the woman he loves most, and now he has taken away the man he trusts most. He says he must take revenge for love and asks teacher Bao Bao for permission. Then he uses his ability to control a small rat. Meanwhile, at the secret base, the little dragon is happily playing fetch with a tennis ball. Lin Kin is reading a book and explains that little dragons usually start learning to fly around 2 months old, but only with the guidance of a beast tamer. He sighs and says that, as expected, they still need a beast tamer. Suddenly, he notices something and calls out to the little dragon. A huge rat appears, tries to run away, but a stone suddenly hits it and takes it down. Lin Kin is surprised and points out how big the rat is, realizing something is wrong. He warns that something is coming. Elsewhere, some students notice the unusual situation. They wonder if this is the work of the study group, mentioning that it explains why so many students have gone missing recently. However, others pretend not to see anything and quickly leave, not wanting to get involved. We see Mai calling out to the old man. The old man scolds him and asks where he is trying to go again. He reminds him that last time he swallowed his pride to save his life and says he did not adopt him just to watch him seek death again and again. Mai insists that he has to go and says he must take back Dao. The old man dismisses it, saying that thing is just a beast. Mai argues that it is not just a beast, but the first pet beast he ever tamed. The old man calls him an idiot and says he is still acting like a chinibyo. He threatens to break his legs on behalf of his parents. Mai coughs, and the old man tells him to remember what it feels like to get beaten by him, saying he is still too weak. But suddenly, the old man starts coughing heavily and collapses. Mai gets angry and calls him a damn drunkard. Later, Garfield suddenly shows up and shouts bad news. She complains that ever since Lin Kin stopped coming to class, she has become the dead last. So she declares that she has decided to skip class too and will stay here tonight. Lin Kin immediately refuses and says this place could turn into a battlefield at any moment, telling her to go back right now. Garfield jokingly says a dramatic line about it being time to take medicine, acting playful. Lin Kin again tells her to go back immediately. She ignores him, says she is sleepy, and casually wishes good night to the little dragon. Lin Kin points out that it is only 7 o'clock and that she is literally on his bed. Then Dr. Fan Fan also arrives with Ruby. As she walks in, she sees Lin Kin and Garfield fighting over the blanket. Lin Kin demands his blanket back, while Garfield refuses. The little dragon is also there, watching. Fan Fan pauses, looks at the situation, then awkwardly says she will come back in 10 minutes and turns to leave. They both call out to her to stop. Fan Fan casually comments that being young is great and that she understands. They both protest, saying she does not understand at all. Fan Fan then adds that romancing can actually increase beast transformation rate. She explains that there are thousands of ways to transform, but the core principle is establishing a connection between species, and many people improve themselves through romance. Lin Kin immediately tells her not to spread this kind of nonsense at a time like this and calls her a bad influence. Fan Fan, completely unfazed, asks if she can film it as research material. The atmosphere turns chaotic and awkward, like a long summer night in a dorm with too many people. Lin Kin finally snaps and tells both of them to stop messing around and go back immediately. A bit later, we see everyone sleeping there. While sleeping, Garfield casually throws her leg over Lin Kin's face. He wakes up slightly annoyed and says this is more troublesome than he expected. After a while, he suddenly senses something wrong. There are rats everywhere. He immediately wakes up properly and looks around, calling out to Garfield. Garfield wakes up too, yawns, and casually says she drank too much water. She gets up and walks out into the corridor. As she walks through the dark hallway, Lin Kin suddenly rushes in and warns her to watch out behind her. She turns around and sees a huge rat. She reacts casually at first and says it is just a mouse, asking why he is acting so scared. Lin Kin immediately tells her no. At that moment, strange noises echo all around them. They realize it is not just one rat. There are countless rats, an entire swarm. They are everywhere, moving together like an army. All of them are being controlled. The chairman's presence can be felt behind it all. He unleashes wave after wave of rats. Seeing this, Garfield and the others start reacting in shock and disgust. She complains about how disgusting it is and angrily calls the chairman an idiot, saying she will not forgive him. Lin Kin urgently reminds her that she is basically like a cat and tells her to deal with the rats quickly. Garfield ignores that and instead calls out that she is coming to the little dragon. The little dragon is clearly nervous, surrounded by the swarm. Lin Kin tells it to fly. The dragon tries to take off, but even in the air, the rats latch onto it. Seeing this, Lin Kin becomes seriously worried. A swarm of rats surrounds them. Everyone is trembling. They say there are too many rats and that they cannot get past. There are countless rats, all being controlled by that guy. Lin Kin bites his finger and thinks he can only use that move. Then he hesitates, saying that move is a one-time use and that it is not the right moment yet. Lin Kin, he encourages the little dragon and tells it not to be so delicate, saying they are just a bunch of rats. But suddenly, the dragon gets completely swarmed. Lin Kin keeps talking to it, saying its teeth are more numerous than theirs, its claws are sharper, and that it is the master of 10,000 beasts. Hearing this, the dragon suddenly snaps out of fear. It remembers what it is, a dragon. These lowly rats are nothing to it. Its aura begins to awaken. The dragon starts trembling, but this time with power. Powerful aura bursts out. The rats immediately panic and scatter. Lin Kin praises it and says it did a great job, noting how strong its aura was. But soon, he notices the rats are gathering again. He quickly decides they need to move and tells everyone to climb to the 3rd floor through a crack in the ceiling. They manage to climb up. Below them, the rats form a terrifying sea, like a flowing river. Garfield reacts in disgust and says she is going to take 100 baths after this. Then she suddenly realizes something important. They forgot Dr. Fan Fan. They call out to her, asking if she is still alive. Fan Fan is barely hanging on, clinging to a piece of cloth, saying she is about to die. She is in a very dangerous position. Garfield says she is a good doctor and they cannot leave her. Lin Kin quickly makes a decision. He tells Garfield to escape immediately and go get help while he goes to save Dr. Fan Fan. He adds that they also need to completely resolve the study group problem, but warns her not to go to the security department. Instead, she should go directly to the school's Supreme Council. Garfield gets serious and agrees. She says to leave the little dragon to her, calling herself its guardian. Then she jumps out of the window and runs off at full speed to get help. After she leaves, Lin Kin reassures himself that she will be safe once she is out. He then picks up the dragon and tells it that it did very well tonight and should rest, saying he will handle the rest. As he prepares to move, he looks down and sees that the entire lower floor is still filled with rats. He thinks about how to get close to Dr. Fan Fan. In the end, he decides he has no choice but to go down and take it one step at a time. As he keeps running, there are still countless rats below, but he pushes forward as fast as he can. He relies on his speed, but suddenly he notices something else. A huge beast appears in his path. Lin Kin reacts in shock and says that is a really big dog, and now the entire path is blocked. The dog stares at him for a moment, then suddenly starts charging toward him. Lin Kin quickly thinks and says he has figured out a way to get close to Dr. Fan Fan. At the last moment, he jumps over the huge dog and thinks that the floor has already been weakened by the rats and is extremely fragile. special, and that Lin Kin came at just the right time. Taking advantage of this, Lin Kin uses all his strength and kicks the dog downward with full force. The impact sends the dog crashing through the floor. It falls straight into the swarm of rats below. Lin Kin observes that the rat swarm is now gathering toward the big dog and says this is good. Immediately, the dog starts fighting off the rats, drawing all their attention. Meanwhile, Dr. Fan Fan is still struggling, saying her hand is stuck. Lin Kin calls out to her, telling her he is there. Just as he is about to reach her, a voice interrupts. The chairman arrives and demands to know what he is doing. At the same time, Mai also shows up and tells someone to snap out of it. Lin Kin notices him and recognizes him as the logistics department guy. Everything starts getting chaotic as multiple people arrive at once. Lin Kin quickly reassesses the situation and tells Dr. Fan Fan that it might actually be safer for her to hang there a little longer. She is confused and reacts in disbelief. Even Ruby starts whimpering nervously. We see Mai as a kid, badly beaten up. The other kids say they did not know any better, that it was just normal fighting and playing around. But then the adults arrive. One angrily says who is playing around and tells them to look at his son's injuries. The old man steps in and humbly says that this child has had no mother to teach him since he was young, and asks them to punish the elder instead and forgive the child. Mai protests and says it was them who first insulted his parents, calling them lower class and livestock. That is why he fought back. He shouts that they are the real lower class. Hearing this, one of the men gets furious and calls him a brat. As the man begins transforming, the old man panics and starts slapping Mai, calling him a little punk and asking if he thinks he is tough. He then bows repeatedly, apologizing to everyone and promising to discipline him properly. Mai looks confused and asks why the old man is kneeling. Suddenly, the transformed man grabs Mai. He declares that this place belongs to beast men and that ordinary people who cannot use beast transformation exist only to serve them. He says they are no different from cats and dogs, just livestock. He orders them to lock Mai in a dog cage so he can understand his place. Mai is thrown into confinement. He struggles and shouts for them to let him out, but no one listens. Then he notices something. There are many dogs nearby. One of the dogs walks up to him, drops a toy bone, and looks at him kindly. Mai clenches his fist and says he will prove them wrong. He grabs the toy and declares that even if he cannot use beast transformation, he still has dignity. That is how he meets the little dog and becomes friends with it. Back in the present, that same dog has become a huge monster, now being controlled by the chairman. We see flashes of young Mai playing with the dog. Then the chairman appears and mocks him, saying the dog belongs to him now. Mai refuses to accept it, but the chairman treats it like a game, saying he will draw a bone and see who the dog chooses. In the present, Mai faces the massive beast, which is about to attack him. At that moment, Lin Kin arrives and steps in. Lin Kin tells him that this is not a situation where words will solve everything. He says in this school, where even eating people can be covered up, fists and teeth are what matter. He adds that he already understands the enemy's weakness, that the study group relies too much on beast transformation. Someone scoffs at him, telling him not to get carried away. The chairman coldly tells Lin Kin that he has been expelled from the group. Lin Kin replies that it is really a pity, but since they are parting, he asks if the chairman can at least tell him who the study group's instructor is. He says it is hard to imagine that they alone could suppress something like food supplementation to become stronger. The chairman dismisses him and asks if he really thinks he is qualified to know that. Lin Kin calmly says that maybe he will ask after beating him into submission. The chairman tells him to come on and prepares for a strong attack. Lin Kin focuses. He thinks about forming a connection with the dragon. He realizes that the little dragon's growth directly affects his own abilities. Last time, when the dragon released high power and breathed fire, his body also gained a corresponding ability. Although it seems like a one-time use for now, he believes it is more than enough to handle the current situation. He prepares to unleash his move. Suddenly, something feels wrong. Spikes begin emerging from the surrounding walls. A voice shouts for him to watch out, but it is too late. The spikes shoot out from all directions and strike Lin Kin. Some of them even pierce through and slam into the ground. 5 minutes earlier, we see Garfield running as fast as she can through the woods. Suddenly, she spots someone and calls out, asking if they are a student and saying something terrible has happened. She asks them to notify the Supreme Council. Then she realizes he is a teacher and feels relieved. The man says he was just heading there anyway, but the moment Garfield looks closely, she freezes. She thinks to herself that it is him. She notices the strange bag and wonders what kind of hybrid beast it is. Maybe Rainstorm. She also realizes that he is the one who caused those spikes to rain down on Lin Qin. Back at the battlefield, the chairman becomes excited and greets teacher Bao Bao, thanking him for stepping in personally. Bao Bao calmly says that it is good to be young, risking one's life for a companion, and calls it moving. Lin Qin immediately realizes something is wrong and questions him, asking if he is the one secretly keeping a hybrid beast in that bag. Bao Bao laughs and calls him naive. He explains that this is a beast transformation school called Longsan, where the philosophy is to abandon human form and return to the way of the beast. He asks if Lin Qin really thinks the higher-ups care if weak students get devoured. He continues, saying people only admire the majesty of the lion. He goes on about how through devouring, creatures gain strength, how the lion gains the rabbit's alertness, the antelope's agility, and the fox's cunning. He says their path to truth lies in devouring. He talks about how devouring gave birth to creatures like Cerberus, Cockatrice, and Cthulhu, calling them the most true and beautiful beings. He says he has personally witnessed a creature standing at the absolute pinnacle of hybrid beasts, and that with just one glance, he knew it was the truth of the universe. He becomes increasingly passionate as he speaks. Then he turns cold again and tells Lin Qin that he is not targeting him personally. It is just that he is too weak and lowly to possess such a hybrid beast. He orders him to hand it over and promises him a quick death. Lin Qin angrily refuses and tells him off. Bao Bao responds calmly, saying he has many ways to deal with disobedient students. He reveals that his stinger contains a deadly poison and says Lin Qin is already as good as dead. Suddenly, poison begins spreading through Lin Qin's arms. Lin Qin realizes what it is and says it is a neurotoxin, likely from an insect-type ability, and notes how painful it is. Lin Qin starts coughing and says this is the only way. The teacher looks surprised as Lin Qin's entire body begins to change. Mai reacts and says it is burning, realizing that the toxin is being denatured by the high temperature. He tells him not to push it further. The chairman immediately shouts that Lin Qin should not even think about beast transformation and says he will tear him to shreds right now. But suddenly, the giant dog monster charges in, roaring and barking, trying to devour Lin Qin. However, Lin Qin is now on a completely different level. He activates his dragon flame mode. Even as he fights, he apologizes to the big dog and then forcefully throws it away. In his mind, he realizes that all the cells in his body have become extremely active due to the dragon flame. His physical capabilities have surged dozens of times over. However, he also understands that he can only maintain this state for a limited time. As the battle continues, the sheer intensity makes everyone around uneasy. The teacher watches and laughs. The chairman and Mai both focus seriously on the fight. Lin Qin quickly calculates his limit and thinks he can only maintain this power for 45 seconds. He tells Mai that he does not have time to help him, and that he will have to handle things on his side alone. Mai understands and immediately moves toward the chairman and the other beasts. At the same time, Lin Qin turns his focus toward the teacher and charges straight at him. The chairman commands his army of rats to attack all at once. However, Mai fights back and starts taking down the rats one by one. Dr. Fan Fan, still hanging, calls out to him. She explains that the essence of beast transformation is forming a connection with animals. She says the chairman's ability is a type of mind control, where he induces fear through abuse and then uses that fear to control them. She adds that if his focus is interrupted, the big dog can regain consciousness. She tells Mai that Lin Qin is right, he should attack the chairman directly, since he himself is not that strong. While fighting off the rats, Mai asks how exactly he is supposed to interrupt his focus. At the same time, the chairman runs toward the big dog and starts yelling at it to wake up. When that does not work, he begins beating the dog even more brutally. Mai sees this and shouts at him to stop. He charges forward and yells for the dog to open its eyes. But suddenly, the dog reacts and grabs Mai, slamming him against the wall and biting into his shoulder. The chairman watches this and starts laughing. He mocks Mai, asking how it feels to be bitten to death by the dog he raised since it was a puppy. He keeps laughing, clearly enjoying the moment. Then suddenly, a voice calls out to wake the dog up. Dr. Fan Fan, still hanging, struggles and manages to move the fan she is stuck on. The chairman notices her movement. She keeps shaking it and shouting desperately. At that moment, Ruby loses her balance and falls. Fan Fan also begins to fall, screaming. Ruby lands directly onto the chairman's face. For a brief moment, everything pauses. Fan Fan is confused. The dog, which was biting Mai, suddenly stops, but the chairman becomes furious. He directs all his anger toward Ruby, calling her a stupid dog and starts kicking her repeatedly, trying to crush her. Fan screams Ruby's name in panic. Then, a voice cuts through the chaos. Someone asks where the chairman's focus went. The chairman is momentarily confused. Suddenly, he notices something. A small green toy. Mai speaks up and tells the dog it is time to play fetch. The big dog suddenly pauses. It remembers something from the past. How the little Mai used to play with it like this. As it looks at the toy, something inside it changes. Just as it is about to chase after it, it suddenly turns. Instead of obeying the chairman, it attacks him. The chairman is completely caught off guard as the dog slams into him and takes him down. Mai watches in shock. Once again, the dog he raised has stepped in and defeated his greatest enemy. But at the same time, Ruby is in terrible condition. Dr. Fan rushes to her and keeps calling her name in panic, clearly worried. Meanwhile, outside, Lin Kin is still fighting against the insect-type teacher. The teacher laughs wildly as he observes Lin Kin's power. He starts guessing what kind of fusion beast it is, throwing out possibilities like a fire-type hybrid, a lava rat, or some kind of rare bird. He becomes more and more excited, convinced that he will soon get his hands on it. Spikes begin raining down once again as the timer starts counting. 43, 42. Lin Kin pushes himself to the limit, trying to deal as much damage as possible before his strength runs out. Suddenly, his bag gets knocked away. He reaches out to grab it. 39, 38. He keeps advancing, but more stingers rain down as the teacher laughs. 37. They clash again at high speed. 36. Lin Kin manages to land several solid hits. 35. 34. He uses both speed and strength to press the attack. A student suddenly tries to step in, offering to help the teacher. But the teacher, still on the ground, suddenly turns on him. 33. He attacks the student instead and throws him away. 31. Before anyone can react, the teacher devours the student. His power surges back. 28, 27, 26, 25, 24. The battle intensifies as both sides clash again and again. Just as the teacher prepares to strike with his massive stinger, Lin Kin grabs it mid-attack. 21, 20. The teacher goes all out, attacking from every angle with incredible speed. 17. He lands a heavy blow, sending Lin Kin crashing. But Lin Kin pushes through and counterattacks. The teacher is slammed to the ground. 15, 14. Lin Kin leaps onto him and goes for the finishing blow, but the teacher blocks it with his aura. 13, 12, 11. The countdown reaches 0. A huge explosion erupts. When the smoke clears, Lin Kin has reverted back to his human form. He is exhausted, barely standing. The teacher lies on the ground, breathing heavily. For a moment, it seems like it is over. Then suddenly, the teacher moves. He slowly gets up and says he almost died, surprised that he actually lost to a student. He becomes curious and asks what kind of hybrid beast Lin Kin possesses. Lin Kin panics internally. He realizes his dragon flame power is completely depleted, but the teacher does not know that. He thinks quickly, deciding to act like he still has the upper hand. The teacher then makes a request, asking to see the hybrid beast he lost to. Lin Kin hesitates for a moment. Then he opens the bag. The little dragon appears. The teacher looks at it in shock and realizes what it is. He stares and says it is a dragon. After seeing the dragon, the teacher is completely stunned. He asks what it is, realizing it is a dragon, the apex of all beasts, one of the highest existences. Then he corrects himself, saying it is even nobler than what he had imagined, a young dragon that has only recently hatched. He is overwhelmed and wonders if he really just lost to something like this. He calls it wonderful. Lin Kin remains cautious. The teacher, almost desperate now, says that before he dies, he wants to touch the dragon. He says that as long as he can touch it once, he is willing to die. Lin Kin questions why he should believe him. The teacher explains that his life depends on his parasitic wasp ability. He says he relies entirely on his mouth part to acquire abilities, and that destroying it would kill him instantly. He offers it up as proof, saying he is willing to completely submit to the dragon. Lin Kin immediately grabs it. The teacher screams in pain. Lin Kin observes carefully and realizes the teacher is not lying. This really could kill him. The earlier battle also proved it. Still, he finds it disgusting. He tells the teacher that he cannot fulfill his dying wish. Lin Kin then asks something important. He asks if the teacher killed a cat girl when he arrived. The teacher seems confused and says no. He explains she was too weak and he had no interest in her, so he only put her to sleep. Lin Kin confirms if that is true. Then he immediately orders the teacher to take him to her. Elsewhere, someone is calling out desperately for Ruby. Lin Kin later reflects on everything. He explains that the disturbance at the old campus ended in less than 15 minutes, and as he intended, it did not cause a large-scale commotion. Garfield is safe. He notes that her weakness actually allowed her to avoid disaster. As for how he handled Bao Bao, he decided to take a risk. First, he reasoned that if a teacher died, it would attract far more attention, increasing the risk of the dragon being exposed. Second, Bao Bao was willing to take responsibility for the deaths caused by the study group led by Chairman Kong Wei. He agreed to report it to the school's upper management while concealing the existence of the dragon. Because of this, Lin Kin spared his life and reached an agreement with him. 3 days later, they arrived to check on Ruby. Dr. Fan Fan greets them. Lin Kin asks how Ruby is doing. They look over. Ruby is in very bad condition, connected to a machine with multiple tubes attached to her body. Dr. Fan Fan says Ruby is not out of danger yet. She explains that for now, Ruby can only be sustained by machines and still needs further medical treatment. However, she adds that the school will not bother the research institute for an ordinary little dog. Even so, she firmly says Ruby will survive no matter the cost and that she will keep her alive. The others stay silent. After that, they quietly walk out. Outside, Garfield asks if there is really nothing they can do. Lin Kin suddenly asks if they have any money and tells them to lend it to him first, saying he will pay them back later. They gather what little they have. Lin Kin looks at the small amount of coins and comments that it is too little, calling them all poor. After thinking for a moment, he walks to the reception desk. He tells the staff to deposit the money into Ruby's treatment fund. The staff looks at the amount and questions if that is all. Lin Kin starts thinking. He realizes that everyone around him is broke, and Dr. Fan Fan is probably not in a better situation either. Ruby's treatment is expensive. Raising a dragon is also expensive. He concludes that he needs to find a way to make money. A lot more money. Finally, after a hell of an experience, we see a small smile on the main character, Lin Kin. He tells Garfield that he will leave the little dragon with her for a while, saying he has something to do and needs to step away for about an hour. Garfield gets curious and asks where he is going. Since the dragon is so important to both of them, she feels that whatever he is going to do must be serious. Lin Kin does not explain and quietly walks away. In the hallway, he looks extremely tired. He slowly walks toward the lift and just stands there, silent. It is unclear what he is thinking. Later, in another place, we see medical staff preparing something. One person says they are coming. Another reports that the body temperature is 37.5 degrees, heart rate 95, and blood pressure 98, all normal. Lin Kin arrives and calmly says he is ready. They begin preparing for a blood transfusion. Lin Kin lies down and starts donating his blood. As he looks at the person receiving it, he softly says that lately he has gained some confidence and that he will become the strongest. Then it is revealed. The person he is donating blood to is his father. His father is in urgent need of blood. That is why Lin Kin needs money, not just for the dragon, but for his father as well. Later, we see a completely different place. It is a beautiful and strategic location. A mountain blocks the view from the campus, making it hidden. There is an open clearing perfect for training. A small cabin stands nearby, looking comfortable. The stone walls provide excellent cover, and if they are discovered, there is even a water route for escape. This place, introduced by teacher Bao Bao, is perfect for them. Garfield comments that the teacher must be a saint. Lin Kin immediately corrects her and says he is still a bad guy. Mai looks around and comments on how ridiculously big the school is. He then says that as repayment for saving him and Dao, he will use everything he has learned to train Lin Kin's pet beast. He asks what kind of beast it is. At that moment, the little dragon pops out. Mai is shocked and realizes it is a dragon. He quickly regains composure and says he will not give it special treatment just because of that. He gets serious and tells them to get ready. Lin Kin gets slightly nervous and says that might not be necessary, but Mai is already fired up. He gives the first command and tells the dragon to fly. Then he asks if they are trying to develop its flying ability. Lin thinks about what Mai said. The little dragon only flew that one time because it was a life or death situation, so it doesn't really count as mastering flight. Mai explains that flying takes a lot of stamina and most creatures instinctively avoid it, so it needs slow and patient training. Before Before that though, Mai says Lin should first build a basic connection with the dragon. He tells Lin to train it using a whistle. Lin's like, how am I supposed to do that? Mai explains that every time he feeds the dragon, he should whistle in the same rhythm so the dragon starts associating that sound with food. So Lin tries, but yeah, his whistling is kinda trash. Still, the little dragon tries its best to respond. Mai keeps going, saying that after repeating this enough times, the dragon will respond even without food. Then they slowly increase the distance, first 1 meter, then 3, then 10, all the way up to 1,000 meters. That way, no matter where the dragon is, it'll respond to Lin. They keep practicing like this. Mai keeps saying go further, a bit more, even more, basically pushing it to see the max range. And surprisingly, even from far away, Lin and the dragon can still sync up. Meanwhile, Garfield is just done. She's like, are you guys gonna eat or what? She's clearly annoyed. Later, Lin is straight up knocked out, sleeping. Back in class, the teacher calls him out and is like, is my class really that boring? You disappear for a month and come back just to sleep? Stand up. Lin stands up looking dead tired and says sorry, training's been rough lately. The whole class starts laughing, making fun of him, saying what kind of training a dead last like him is even doing. The teacher shuts them up and asks Lin to explain what beast transformation actually is. Says if he messes it up, he's in trouble. Lin pauses for a second. In his head, he's thinking about everything, how the dragon's finally got a stable setup now, how he's only coming back to class so he doesn't get kicked out. Then he answers. He says beast transformation is basically about forming a connection between humans and beasts, both emotional and genetic, and using that connection to gain their power. Lin is standing there, but in his head, he's thinking way deeper. He thinks that because of his dad, there's no way he can leave this school. No matter what, he has to become the strongest. He also realizes something important. Once someone gains a beast transformation ability, they can't just switch to another species. That's it. You're locked in. Then he speaks up in class. He says that a month ago, all of this would have been just a dream for him, but now he can finally see a bit of hope. And when it comes to increasing the beast transformation rate, it's not just about training your body. There are still a lot of unknown factors. But in his mind, he's being real with himself. He knows he can't keep hiding forever. He has to make money for Ruby's treatment and for the little dragon's food. Right now, that's the most urgent thing. The teacher actually nods and says he's completely correct. That surprises everyone. But the other students still look down on it, thinking what's the point of knowing theory if you're still weak? Lin keeps going. He starts explaining that when the beast transformation rate reaches 50%, something major happens. But suddenly, something interrupts everything. Someone walks past outside, and just from that, the entire place starts shaking. The students get scared and start wondering if that was an earthquake. Even Lin turns around. Then they see him, a guy just casually walking, but every step feels heavy enough to shake the ground. Then someone notices the badge. They immediately recognize it. It's from the elite campus. One guy explains it to others. He says this place, their campus, is basically bottom tier. That's why no one here even crosses 15% transformation rate. But above them, there's a completely different world. The elite campus, place full of monsters. People there have transformation rates above 50%. Everyone is shocked. They start wondering why someone like that would even come here. Then that guy walks straight up to the classroom door, opens it, and casually says he needs 3 prey. His name is Chow Meng. And yeah, this just got serious. The teacher looks at the guy and immediately realizes something is off. He asks if he's a student from the elite campus. The whole class reacts instantly. Someone whispers that it might actually be Chow Meng. Another says that insane pressure just now was all from him. Then someone else drops the info. He's the youngest person to ever reach over 50% beast transformation rate. Even Lin notices the badge and understands this guy is on a completely different level. The teacher quickly switches tone and respectfully asks what brings him here. Chow Meng looks bored out of his mind. He clearly doesn't want to repeat himself, so he bluntly says not to make him say it twice. He needs 3 prey for a proficiency test. That word hits everyone. Prey. The class starts panicking. Someone recognizes it as that hunting game from the elite campus, the one that mimics real animal hunting. Another explains that it's basically a test, but with actual lives on the line. People don't come back the same. Some lose limbs. Some don't come back at all. Now everyone is shaken. One student angrily asks what they're being treated as. Chow Meng doesn't even hesitate. He casually says they're basically just consumables. That line hits hard. Everyone is disgusted. He's not even trying to hide it. To him, they're not even human. One of the people with him tries to step in and tells him he shouldn't say things like that. Chow just shrugs and says fine, pretend he didn't say anything. Then he moves on like it doesn't matter. He explains the deal. Anyone selected will get paid. Around 200,000. He straight up says he's buying their lives. The guy behind him again tries to stop him, saying he shouldn't say that either. But the damage is already done. The class is furious and disgusted. Lin is different though. He's thinking that money could solve a lot of problems. Ruby's treatment, the dragon's expenses. But at the same time, he knows this is insanely dangerous. So he decides to stay out of it for now. Then suddenly, one student snaps. He slams his desk, stands up, and shouts that this is a joke. He questions how they can use people's lives for entertainment and says rules like this should have been abolished long ago. But before he can do anything, someone appears behind him, smacks him on the head, knocks him out instantly. The man calmly apologizes to the teacher, saying he just helped maintain discipline. The teacher is clearly shaken but quickly agrees and thanks him. After that, silence. No one dares to speak. The man walks out like nothing happened, and the entire class just sits there, frozen. One student whispers that it only took one strike. Another says the gap between them is just way too big. Chow Meng doesn't care about any of that. He looks around and says since no one has objections, he'll start choosing. Then he starts pointing. He picks one and calls him crocodile. Then another pangolin. Then a girl skunk. The tension in the room is insane. No one wants to be picked. But then one guy suddenly speaks up. He suggests someone else. He says there's one person who would make the perfect prey. Turns out, it's personal. The crocodile guy wants Lin to suffer with him, so he points straight at Lin and says it's him. Chow Meng doesn't even hesitate. He just shrugs and says fine, one more won't make a difference. The crocodile guy starts laughing. This was his plan all along. The teacher, clearly shaken, just goes along with it. He tells the 4 chosen students to go with Chow Meng, but Lin suddenly speaks up. He tells Chow Meng to wait. Everyone turns to look at him. Lin asks a simple question. He says that in this test they run and Chow hunts them, right? So what happens if the prey kills the hunter instead? That question changes the vibe completely. Chow Meng slowly turns back. Then he smirks. He actually finds it interesting. The other students think Lin has lost it. They start whispering that he's just talking nonsense out of fear. After all, how is someone like him supposed to fight someone with over 50% transformation rate? He can't even transform. But to Chow Meng, this is fun. He says the kid has guts. And because of that, if Lin somehow wins, he'll reward him with an extra vial of evolution potion. The butler behind him immediately steps in and says he shouldn't say that. He reminds him it's extremely valuable. Chow Meng just shuts him down. He asks if he needs permission. The butler immediately backs off. Later, they arrive at a massive cliff. Chow Meng points upward and says the test will take place at the training ground above. The place is huge. There are multiple zones laid out across the area. A long training ground set up, different terrains, hiding spots, even a place where the little dragon could be hidden if needed. There's Boulder Plain, another campus section, and beyond that, the elite campus. This isn't just a test. This is a hunting ground. Chow Meng looks at them and explains the rules like it's no big deal. He says it's simple. They get a 30-minute head start. If they can survive for 3 hours without getting caught, they win. But then he adds the real part. He tells them not to think about playing safe. If he catches them, they won't just end up resting in bed for a few months. It'll be way worse. They can run, hide, do whatever they want. And then he smirks and says they can also try what Lin suggested, defeating him. But the chance of that happening, basically zero. He's not even joking. He fully believes it. Even the butler standing behind him just calmly closes his eyes, like this outcome is already decided. Lin is watching all this carefully. In his head, he realizes something important. Even if he somehow manages to fight Chow Meng, the butler will definitely step in. There's no way this guy is going to let Chow Meng lose. So in reality, he might have to fight both of them. Chow Meng claps his hands and says enough talking. Time to start. One of the chosen guys, the crocodile, raises his hand and points out something obvious. They have no way to get up there. Before anyone can react, a claw suddenly grabs him. It's the butler. Using his owl-type powers, he lifts not just him, but all of them at once. Then the butler politely asks Chow Meng if he needs help getting up. Chow Meng just brushes it off and says he'll go himself, treating it like a warm-up. The butler carries the others to the top of the cliff, then just drops them. They all start screaming as they fall, and crash straight down into the training ground below. Boulder Plain, a massive open battlefield, rough terrain everywhere, perfect for a hunt. Chow Meng arrives shortly after. He stretches a bit, loosens up, then starts transforming. His body grows bigger, more muscular, turning into an ape-like beast. Then he cracks his neck and says it's time to end this quickly. This isn't a test. This is straight-up survival. At Training Ground 5, Boulder Plain, the area is quite big, and we see all the participants immediately start running. They say they just need to hang on for 3 hours. However, the crocodile guy notices Lin just standing there. He thinks it was a good thing he dragged someone along as a decoy, and that Lin should be able to stall for a while. He thinks like they say, you don't have to outrun the beast, just the guy next to you. But Lin remains calm. He thinks that Chow Meng really doesn't see them as a threat. He didn't even bother taking their phones. Then Lin looks up and says it looks like someone will be watching the whole time. He understands that the butler is the biggest problem. Now it's not just one opponent, it's two. Lin calls Garfield and asks where she went. Garfield laughs and says that if it's about the hunting game, he's done for. She tells him she will take good care of the little dragon and jokes that he should go in peace. But Lin has something else in mind. He thinks that after this month of training, he already has 45 seconds of dragon flame saved up. Staying alive shouldn't be a problem. Still, he knows he needs extra insurance, so he asks her to help him contact someone. Later, we see the other participants exhausted after running for so long. The crocodile guy thinks he has gone far enough now. He assumes Lin must be far behind and says that Lin only has himself to blame for being useless. He thinks the world is just that cruel. But then suddenly, he notices something. Someone is there. He gets scared and reacts, asking if it is Bao Bao and why he is there. Lin steps forward and explains. He says that a wild buffalo is stronger than a lion, but it still becomes food because of its instinctive fear. He tells them that they actually have the advantage, and that working together to attack is the best option. The crocodile guy gets angry and starts talking back. But before he can do anything, Lin steps in and strikes him, telling him to shut up. Then Lin says he already knows all his little tricks and doesn't care. He says he doesn't feel like explaining anything. The only thing that matters now is that they listen to him. As Lin grabs him, the crocodile guy can clearly feel the pressure. He realizes Lin is not the same as before. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Chow Meng, in his ape form, is calmly tracking them. He looks at the ground and notices something strange. The footprints suddenly stop. Chow Meng starts looking around because he feels like people are hiding nearby. But then, suddenly, Lin comes right behind him and tries to grab him. Chow Meng reacts instantly. His agility is on another level. He easily dodges and laughs. He says Lin's plan is a frontal attack and calls it bold. Lin doesn't back down. He says he won't know anything unless he tries. He wants to see how big the gap really is between him and an elite. So he keeps attacking, trying to grab, trying to strike again and again. But Chow Meng just keeps dodging everything effortlessly. He keeps saying it's too slow. Again and again, Lin can't land anything. Then Chow Meng mocks him. He says Lin's skill level doesn't match his big talk and asks if he really can't even beast transform. Lin realizes the problem. He thinks Chow Meng is insanely fast. He can't land a hit at all. But then suddenly, one of Lin's attacks actually lands. Chow Meng just stands there and takes it. After getting hit, he barely reacts. He says the hit is way too light and calls it boring. Then, after seeing everything Lin can do, he casually uses his tail and swats Lin away. Lin goes flying. At that moment, from behind, the crocodile guy jumps in, roaring as he attacks. Chow Meng looks at this and almost finds it funny. He says they're going for a group fight and calls it touching. Then, without even trying, he kicks the crocodile straight in the face, then drags him across the ground like it's nothing. The skunk girl and the pangolin guy jump in to help, but it doesn't matter. Chow Meng grabs one with his hand and the other with his tail. Completely effortless. He looks bored. He says they're still boring and that they're nothing. He even says it won't take much time to finish all of them. But right at that moment, while Chow Meng is busy handling them, Lin comes back, this time with his dragon power activated. He attacks from behind and says it's time for round 2. Hearing Lin say round 2, suddenly Chow Meng turns back and says that using teammates to create an opening means Lin isn't a good person. He says too bad, Lin is too weak and he doesn't even need to defend. However, as he notices Lin's hand coming toward him, he realizes there is a bit too much power in this one. As the hand collides with him, he feels a lot more power than usual. The butler is watching from above all of this happening, and now Chow Meng is getting a bit scared. Then Lin shouts that now is their chance. However, the butler above thinks that being blocked by the rocks was intentional and that for this kind of test, the young master should be able to handle it. Chow Meng is in real trouble. He's getting very nervous and even even scared. The crocodile roars and goes to grab his legs, saying he got him. Then suddenly, the lady starts using her techniques, and the stench is way too much. Immediately, Chow Meng blocks his nose, saying it's so stinky it burns his eyes. Then the pangolin guy starts attacking again and again, rolling from all directions. He's moving so fast, with so many hits and attacks, making things really difficult for Chow Meng. Chow Meng says the teamwork is very good, but the attacks are all too weak. He says it's simply scratches and that he can break free in a flash. But then Lin attacks again and his strikes land really hard. Chow Meng thinks that this is the most troublesome part. His counterattacks keep getting interrupted at every opportunity. Then he says watch him as he starts twisting with a deadly glare. The crocodile is doing his best to make sure he doesn't get out, but he starts shouting in frustration. However, the crocodile is still feeling very confident. He says elites are nothing special. The pangolin guy is also laughing. The skunk lady thinks they have already won. But suddenly, a hand starts moving, and suddenly, even Lin feels something approaching. A giant ape appears, carrying a huge weapon and a shield. It attacks everyone. Lin says this is as he notices the monster protecting Chow Meng. Then Lin thinks that Chow Meng also has a battle pet, actually 2 of them. Now things are getting a bit tough for him as well. What will he do next? If you don't want to miss it, subscribe right now and turn on all the notifications.